Sorry for the wait, folks. What's going on, everybody? This is Sean of Raw Select Music. Today I wanted to talk about this record right here. This is the Stark Reality Roller Coaster Ride, reissued on Now Again Records in 2015. This was a record that I was really curious about since I picked up early last year the Hoagy Carmichael's Music Shop, or the Stark Reality Discovers the Hoagy Carmichael's Music Shop reissue that Now Again Records did back in 2015. I actually think these guys came out at the same time. This ended up being one of my favorite, if not my favorite, record pickup from last year, and given that there was no real releases that were jumping out at me towards the end of the year, I figured I might as well fill out the rest of my Stark Reality music collection picking this guy up. And now that I've listened to it quite a few times, I wanted to share my thoughts and opinions of this record with you and let you know whether or not I think it's worth checking out. So, that little introduction out of the way, let's get into it. Alright, first off, I want to mention a few things about this record because I noticed while doing a little bit of research about the Stark Reality that this is sort of an oddball release. It's essentially the same thing as the Stones Throw reissue of the songs on this record, just under a different name, called 1969, which I think came out in either 2002 or 2003, and it's essentially the same record that's contained within the Stark Reality box set, Acting, Thinking, Feeling, which came out on Now Again Records, I think, back in 2013. So if you have either copies of those records, you don't need to grab this. Also, I do want to state that the track order on the digital copy of this record is slightly changed from the track order that's actually on the record. It's not really a big deal, but I just did want to let you know that if you do end up using the download card, you're going to see the cover of the box set and that the track order for this record is slightly altered. But none of that really affects the quality of the music on here, which is what I'm going to get into next. Segue. So if you've already watched my review on the Stark Reality Discovers the Hoagy Carmichael's Music Shop, then you already know pretty much where I stand on the Stark Reality's music. Their mix of psychedelic funk, jazz, soul, rock, and pop music all thrown into a musical blender. These two records, honestly, are part and parcel of each other. And the only real difference between this guy and this guy and this guy, this is all, from what I can tell, original compositions by the group, and they are working solely from their influences rather than reinterpreting somebody else's music. And I gotta say, even from that, the Stark Reality are so horribly unappreciated as a group, because this is some of the most forward-thinking, unique, and just overall exciting and, dare I say it, timeless music I think I've ever heard. So many aspects of this record just absolutely floor me. For one thing, the musicianship, much like I talked about in my other review, is absolutely top-notch. From the proto drum and bass drumming, to the slip and slide rubbery bass lines, to the Primus-esque walls of noise guitar playing, and Monty Stark's absolutely insane, textured, gritty vibe playing, which is also contrasted from when he uses a more clean sound. There's just so much musical brilliance going on here. Even though this album is made up largely of a lot of extended musical jams, it never feels masturbatory. It never feels like these guys are just showing off their chops, but rather it feels like the jams are really trying to just build texture and build a world for the songs themselves. And I'd say another thing that really helps out the Stark Reality is that these guys have really strong pop hooks. Monty Stark is definitely not going to win any awards as a amazing vocalist. What he does lack in, shall we say, range, he makes up for with sheer conviction. You can really tell that he's putting his heart and soul into singing some of the most ridiculous lyrics you've ever heard. It really makes it work. I found myself singing along to a lot of the songs on here. And speaking of the songs on here, there's a wide variety of tempos on here. One of my favorite tracks on here is the sort of light and delicate sounds of the track Nani, which has this sort of childlike, almost lullaby to it, but also at the same time it really feels like there's some sort of weird, creepy tension that's going on in it at the same time. It's a softer moment on this album, but I really, really like that. And then contrasting it with the wild and rambunctious and crazy sounds of Sunday's song with its absolutely repeatable refrain of "I don't listen to anybody," which really feels like the 1960s version of Rage Against the Machine's "Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me." And it goes into some wild and crazy ride of a musical instrumental passage, and it's just a thoroughly entertaining and fun record to listen to. And it's a record that I love going back to over and over again, because these guys really know how to play with each other, and they really know when to let certain elements become the central voice or the centerpiece of a song, and when to all come together. And some of my favorite moments on this record is it seemingly like in the hands of a lesser band, everybody all jamming at the same time. They somehow make it not come across as musical slop and make it so incredibly musically entertaining. Honestly, if you watched my review for Hoagy Carmichael's Music Shop, then I think I kind of already touched on my thoughts and feelings on this record. It's funky as hell. There's tons of grooves on here. Compositionally, it's a really fun record to listen to. The lyricism, although nonsensical, it still makes for a really enjoyable listen. And I don't really know what else to add. Basically, at the end of the day, what I'd say is if you've already listened to The Stark Reality Discovers Hoagy Carmichael's Music Shop album, then by default you should be grabbing this, because there's really not that much musically different between this album and the Hoagy Carmichael's Music Shop. The one other thing that I forgot to mention that I do want to bring up is that several songs on here do have the added bonus of having some wild sax playing, and I think I detected a little bit of flute in there as well. And even adding just that extra little bit of instrumentation is just like adding just another spice to an already amazing soup. Chili? I don't fucking know. Bottom line, pick this record up. The Stark Reality Roller Coaster Ride. One of my favorite records that I heard towards the end of last year, and this is destined to become one of my all-time favorite records. Grab this. You absolutely will not be disappointed. So that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thanks as always for watching. If you've checked this record out, or if you've listened to the 1969 album, or you own the box set, let me know what you thought about this record down in the comments. I always love hearing from you guys. And let me know what you think of this camera angle. I'm still trying to figure out what's the best way to shoot in this room. It's trying to get some of the record collection, but also trying to make sure that I'm engaging you as well. Let me know what you think of this camera angle. I greatly appreciate it. If you want to check this record out for yourself, as always, head over to my WordPress or Steemit blogs, because that's where I post musical links so you can check out this or any of the other records that I talk about on this channel. Also, if you're interested in this record or any of the other records in my collection or any of the other music that I talk about this channel, please head over to my Mixcloud. That's where I post Raw Select Radio, which is basically the audio component of this channel. Links for everything are always down in the description. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Till the next video, peace out!